All right, we're still working our way through the May Trimet board meeting. I know it's taking forever, but that's the nature of the board meetings. They go on and on and on. So let's get on it.
Congratulations to our local firm here on getting that done. Let's go on to Resolution 17-05-48. Which is authorizing a modification to a contract with Modern Railway Systems, Inc. to implement positive train control for the West Side Express, West as we call it, commuter rail line. Mr. General Manager.
We're all familiar with the Trimet West. I know that for sure. That's the money pit, the Trimet money pit. All this money goes into that train and can't be used for anything else because they got to keep that train going. That's the clearest example of why you have to keep an eye on TriMet and question them, because once they have these projects in, they can't get rid of them. And that's why they are addicted to rail, because once you get rail in, you can't get rid of it. And that's one of the reasons they like rail, is because you can't just get rid of it once it's in. It's like they're making sure their bureaucracy has a legacy by putting in rail, which once it's in forever. The whole TriMet would have to go out of business to get it.
Board President, members of the board, I thought that by this time in a very long agenda, you'd certainly be tired of hearing from me. So I brought up Steve Witter to give you just a little bit of background on the positive train control implementation, the work we've been doing, and what this modification would really be about. So Steve, if you could, please.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, thank you for having me today. I'd like to introduce just positive train control. We'll talk about what it is, the history of PTC, sort of how it works, and where we are with regard to implementation so far. Positive train control essentially is a system that is integrated, that integrates the dispatch function, the wayside signal function, and the train function. And what it does is continually monitors the operation of the train to make sure it's operating safely. If it senses an unsafe condition, like two trains in the same piece of track or a train running over speed, the computer control system will take control of that train and either stop it or bring it to a safe speed. Essentially, it protects against rail-to-rail collisions, overspeed trains, and trains incurring a work area where we might see railroad workers in a zone. Some history really quick. The Federal Railroad Administration regulates heavy rail, including our West commuter rail service, and they're actually the ones that have called for positive train control. The National Transportation Safety Board has been pushing for positive train control since the 90s. Whoops. Oh, my picture came out. Anyway, so part of the implementation actually resulted from a tragedy that happened in Los Angeles, California. I think we've all probably heard about that, and actually had a lot of influence into how we designed West control systems in the very beginning. 25 fatalities, 102 injuries. That actually accelerated the implementation of positive train control, and President Bush signed that into legislation in 2008. PTC system, we actually run what's called enhanced automatic train control. It was developed by TriMet. It's actually leveraging an existing system that we already have to keep trains separated, as I mentioned. And many other properties around the United States use that, and they include Utah, Florida, Texas, New Mexico, and California. And so they're all trying to implement this same system at the same time. So we decided to join forces as a user group to actually work with the FRA and design the system that would be used across all of those properties. Very quickly, how it works. Up in the left-hand corner, you've got a dispatcher. They set a route for a train. That electronic route is then sent out to the signaling system across the railroad. The signaling system confirms that the train indeed has a safe route, and then the operator gets an indication, a control panel here, the engineer's display, and it talks about what code they've received. Code is an important word that I'll use again, and what speed they will proceed. That indicator will also let the train operator know that they have a change in code coming up, so moving from 40 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour, and the operator has a certain amount of time to make that change. If they don't make that change in that time, the computer will take over, stop the train, or slow it to a safe speed. Just wanted to status where we're at. We've been at this for quite some time. Again, I said the legislation was enacted in 2008. We began to respond immediately in 2009 with an RFP to secure the service of a consultant team. We got a concept, our enhanced automatic train control concept was approved by the FRA in 2011. We went on to design and implement the system, and we were actually out in the field testing our system in 2015. And so we've gone through design, we've gone through the implementation and the field testing. We're essentially ready to turn it on. However, the FRA, along with our property and all those other properties that I mentioned, said that there is a single point of failure in your system. So I mentioned the word code. The code comes up and it says you have, this many miles an hour you can operate. If the code disappears, so for some reason the train loses its code, the train stops, the operator can press a button, it's called no code proceed, and they can proceed with permission from the dispatch to move their train forward to the next safe spot or the next train block. The FRA is concerned that the operator has the ability to move the train without calling dispatch. And so they call that operator the single point of failure. And so the FRA has recognized that this is unsafe, so they've asked us to fix it. We've done so. As I mentioned, the no code proceed allows the operator to move actually without the approval of the dispatcher. So that was what FRA asked us to fix. Through working with the users group and the other folks facing this dilemma, we actually designed a system where that the operator is no longer able to press that button, no code proceed. They actually have to call dispatch, and dispatch will issue a new code. It may be a no code proceed, operate very slowly. But again, the dispatcher has the control, not the operator in the train. So that was what FRA was really looking for. Of course, this is a very complicated system, sort of bleeding-edge technology, so I just wanted to outline the things that are actually part of this change order. Software engineering is a big part of it. We do have modifications to the dispatch center, systems integration, testing, and documentation. It's really critical that we document for our safety certification process and also for our FRA compliance, so that's included in there. We've also included in that 3.5 sort of a $100,000 contingency, and really that's when we get out to test in the field. We're just want to make sure that we don't have to come back to this body for a small change if the field testing results in a little extra delay or a little extra effort. So that represents the body of our change order. I'd also like to note that we've applied for a $2.7 million grant from FRA to help offset the cost of this compliance, and we hope to hear later this year about that grant. I think with that, just to summarize, we're on track for implementation and compliance in 2018. We continue to work with Portland and Western Railroad, our host railroad, as well as the FRA and the other user groups, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you have.
What a never-ending money pit this Wes is. Now they're going to spend millions of dollars on this stupid thing. It's really hard to believe that TriMet can get away with this kind of behavior. But, let's put this in the they spent millions and millions and millions on this when they could have just stuck an express bus. They could have stuck an express bus from Wilsonville to Beaverton, or from Tiger to Beaverton or Washington Square to Beaverton. I mean, they could have just put in express buses and saved millions upon millions of dollars over this dumbass train. But as I said, these trains are money pits that the bureaucrats and the technocrats want, because you see what's going on here? Do you see the millions of dollars that are now going to get spent to implement this thing? Positive train control. It's just one bureaucratic boondoggle after another, and it will never end. And that's the government technique. Put things in that you can keep draining money from citizens for. This was completely a wasteful project. And they never even made the first year rider projections. But there it is, it's in, the government has it, citizens have no say, the money pit continues, and the regular bus service is lousy because of shit like this.
Thank you.
Good.
What's the or I shouldn't say possibility, but how confident are we that we would be able to fund some of this through the FTA? I know it's going to be difficult to kind of give a response to that, but do we have any inclination if this is something that's a real possibility?
Director Stovall, I think our team felt like the requirements, and I don't have the specifics here, but the requirements and guidelines for that grant and the need for us to complete our PTC implementation was a pretty good match. And so we feel optimistic, but we've not had any feedback.
Okay. And of course, you know, for us to be able to use heavy rail in this capacity, I mean, the PTC is required, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, we have to move forward with positive train control.
We have to move forward, and I just want to say, you know, FRA this is a little bit new territory for them, and so with all kind of leading edge technologies, there can be hiccups along the road, and I would sort of lump this into the that category with our relationship with FRA.
All right.
So I had a question. Remind me, does this apply to the freight rail side too, that the P&W has to do similar upgrades?
PNW has to do similar upgrades. We are helping to fund that through this program. They would not have to do this if there was not passenger rail on their system.
Oh, they wouldn't. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That answers my next question. Thank you. Other questions? All right then, is the board ready to offer a motion to approve Resolution 17-05-48?
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 17-05-48, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's move on then to Resolution 17-05-49, which is authorizing contracts with PRR, Inc., Pulsar Incorporated, and Struck Incorporated for advertising agency services. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, this is a good one. By the way, that West thing is going to cost $6 million. They didn't put it in the presentation, but I remember reading it. Here's a nice little piece of pork. Advertising consultants, because TriMet marketing doesn't have enough people. You know, what can you say about this shit, man? It's just a joke.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, we've had some very good service from our current incumbent advertising firm, but the contract had run up to its value, and we thought it was youth time to begin to move out into the marketplace and solicit additional services. As you see from your staff report, we received a great number of proposals associated with this. Again, I think the team had a very hard time getting through all of that, but we have some very, I think, positive recommendations to you to actually establish contracts with the three firms that were noted. So overall, as you'll note, that we had proposals from 12 firms, went through, created a short list, received other proposals and short lists. And we believe that this mix of services will provide us a great deal of service moving forward. And again, we have a number of important topics, including the advancement of the Help Fast Pass, the outreach efforts associated with that, ongoing communication efforts. So we have a number of different applications that they will be helping us with. I'd also just note that each of the contracts are for 1 year to start with, but the extension is possible for another 4 years. Each contract would be for $600,000 per year, not to exceed $300,000 each for the full 5-year term if all options are exercised. And for larger tasks, those over $10,000 will actually be competing amongst the firms that are on these task order contracts. Certainly JC or Bernie would be happy to answer any questions you have. I think I've exhausted my knowledge, but do recommend your approval. But we're happy to address any questions you may have.
Yes.
I'm just curious, are any of the firms that we're awarding contracts to our current provider? So,
No.
new team entirely? Okay.
Right.
Other questions?
Well, that's kind of interesting. The place that they've been contracting isn't bidding. Must have been a falling out between whoever that was. Who was that? Was that the... they're not talking about the that ad thing, right? This is something else. Who does that? The advertising on the bus. I can't remember. What's their name? I can't remember. But this isn't that, right? This is something else.
I think it's board ready to offer a motion to approve Resolution 17-05-49.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 17-05-49, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's move on then. What I see is the last resolution of the day, which is Resolution 17-05-50, which is authorizing a contract with Voltio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, LLC, recruiting from an unsolicited proposal for the Internet of Things solution architect and integration consultant. You're going to explain what all that means for everybody, right?
I'll probably volley some questions to Tim McHugh here before very long. But again, first of all, my thanks for your patience sitting through all these resolutions. Very long agenda today. But I'm very grateful for your continued attention on this.
More TriMet cash machine nonsense that, doesn't have anything to do with transit, but TriMet is really not a transit company. They are a pork barrel provider.
We do need to think about integrating our light rail vehicles into the broad internet world of big data, of looking at real-time maintenance information, communication between the train and our maintenance facilities, improving the function of our maintenance staff. There's a number of different functions, real-time video data, for example, that are really facilitated by really a portal to the internet for our light rail vehicles. And we believe that this portal will become very important in terms of the communication of the cars and our ability to really maximize their uptime, their value, and our ability to serve them and serve our customers well. This whole Internet of Things world is a little bit new to all of us, and certainly a little bit new related to the light rail application, but we think it's really important and really aligns with some of the objectives we've got related to improve service and improve maintenance and safety. So with that, some time ago you approved a contract with DKS that began to delve into this topic with us, how to do this in a smart way. We then began to talk to some of the marketplace, some of the vendors, received, as part of that entree to the marketplace, an unsolicited proposal from Volteo, LLC. And as we began to engage with them, we found that it was a very admirable proposal to really provide the services that are outlined in the resolution. And remember, for an unsolicited proposal, we have 3 steps that we go through. They're outlined in your board memo, but there's an initial review and evaluation related to a series of criteria. We then post a notice so that anybody else who has a better idea can be advised that we'd like to hear from them. And then if there is no additional competition coming forth, then we conduct final review and negotiations with the contractor. And so we've done that with Volteo and recommend a contract in the amount of $300,000 for these system architect and engineering overview services. I would note that the only other party we heard from related to this was with Siemens, who's interested in also beginning to improve their ongoing communication and maintenance services, and so they were interested in really finding out what the scope of services were, but did not submit a competitive proposal to Volteo on this rate. So with that, I'd ask Tim McHugh or others to see if I've misstated anything very dramatically, and offer the opportunity for any questions you may have.
The only thing I would add to that is that their role is the architecture of the entire system.
Right.
I don't know why the sock puppets even bother asking questions. Why don't they just vote on everything? Don't even explain it, because they don't care. They're going to vote yes on everything McFarland puts in front of them. So stop the charade. If I was, they're lucky I'm not in Portland right now, because I have a lot to say to this board, and I can't get away still. But when I come back there, man, I've got a lot to say. I've been watching everything so closely. And this board and this executive management, they are so disconnected from reality. It's shocking.
And not so much to do any of the implementation. And also that it's so that their role is to architect specifically for the rail car initially, but it's also to keep in mind where it may go from there. So for any other smart city initiatives, anything that we want to do with connected vehicles in the future, that the architecture is open to those things when they come up.
Point.
Questions? Yes. Yes.
I have a question. So is this new Volteo, are they going to be working with DKS, the group whose contract we approved last year?
Yes, so DKS will continue on with us in overseeing the entirety of the project, but Volteo will deal with some of the technical details of it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a question, but just a comment, just to say, this is the type of stuff that I find exciting. I mean, this is the innovative stuff that allows us, I think, to be on the cutting edge and be able to, similar to what you just said, Tim, access this data and information.
There goes our favorite sock puppet fawning over the cutting edge. The system runs like shit, but you go ahead and fawn over this nonsense. Yeah, the staff is great. The pork barrel is great. McFarland is great. Meanwhile, don't get stuck on the TriMet, because you probably won't get home.
It gives us a platform and a foundation to leapfrog or jump into the future as such things come available with the internet and everything that we can have with tracking and additional information that will enhance the rider's experience and everything that goes along with it. So I'm excited to see us pioneering in this space.
Yeah, it's a very exciting project.
Other questions? The question I have, so these folks embrace our open architecture kind of framework for what we do?
Yes, that would be the biggest focus of
Okay, that's what I thought. I missed that in the presentation, I guess. So good. Other questions? Is there then a motion to approve Resolution 17-05-50?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 17-05-50, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is approved unanimously.